Yes, welcome back to the Magic Sponge podcast, a miracle cure for all your rugby league injury issues. I'm Brien. I'm the guy behind all the NRL Physio content you see on socials. Well, my co-host, he is here, the victorious co-host. We made the trip all the way down to Sydney. We booked it in. We got down there, mate. What a finish to the season. It was really, really good. As much as I'm a Finns fan, it was good to see you and the other boys happy. I said to my wife, it was like being at your mate's wedding day. And I think on the night you said that it's better than your wedding day. So, yeah, sum it up for me in a couple of minutes, mate. How you feeling?
Yeah, top of the world, Brian. I think I made the comment when we were very deep at the cast late in the night. I was like, well, any idiot can get married and have a kid, but no one gets a chance to see their favourite team win an away game in Sydney in front of 80,000 people. Box office, top notch, all the above. I think it was really good to, obviously do it yourself and three of our really good mates. It was a sick situation of just hot boys being hot, Brian. Like, can you describe it any other way? It's just you get all these throbbers together, and they've throbbed as hard as anyone has throbbed in the history of rugby league. One of the all-time final series, one of the all-time finals performances. It's just, yeah, it's just next level. It's hard to put into words, really, how good it was. You saw me at the end of the game. I was like getting really up and about, a few tears and all that sort of stuff. And it was just one of those ones. It was like we were there. We got to see that in the flesh. Always remember it. What a great year, 2025. Queensland got it done from one down. Broncos get it done at the end. I pretty much have had the best year ever.
And the girls got it done too.
And the girls got it done too. That was a great
definitely
game.
got the ball down. Melly Hafunga,
Of
wasn't
course, yeah. Never in doubt there. Yeah, one blade. I think one blade of grass. What else do you say though, Brian? I don't think the Broncos you could say were the best team all year, but you can't deny the run that they've made through the finals, that they deserved it more than any other team, because I think you can make plenty of arguments for the Raiders. You can make way more arguments for the Bulldogs as well, but the Broncos just got it done when it mattered the most. Big boys stepped up and hot boys were being hot, and that's just how 2025 wrapped up for us. So, yeah, one of the all-timers.
Oh, mate, if you're looking for hot boys being hot, that's most of our clientele on this podcast. So, looking for the hot boys being hot. So, but we were there in 2015, mate. So it was good. It was good to see you get the W after the heartbreak of that. I think, look, we're never ones on this pod to have a go at New South Wales, right? Like very, very neutral. Like never talk up Queensland when it comes to Origin time or anything like that. But James, like, I'm just going to reiterate, and we last dealt with it in 2015. Where that stadium is, like, we are very lucky with Suncorp, right? Being where it is. Like I said to you, if we won that game at Suncorp, any game, you're 5 minutes from so many places to go and use that energy to enjoy yourself. I reckon it was an hour and a half before we got anywhere after the game. Like, it is ridiculous how far it is away from everything. I just I know 10 years ago, we were young, dumb, and full of stuff, so we probably didn't bother as much. But at 35, mate, by the time I got into the cast, like the energy was not high, and I just can't. I don't know how you guys do it. That has to be whoever wants to be the next New South Wales Premier. Just build me a mega stadium somewhere close to the city, so the boys and girls of Sydney can have a good time. Do you agree?
1,000,000% agree. And it also reaffirmed to me, never take Magic Round away from Suncorp, because it is the best. You can have your grand final. I'm cool with that. But don't you dare take Dad Schoolies off us. That's just something that is just going to be ours forever. And if you haven't done Dad Schoolies or Suncorp Splendor, get up there for it next year. It's one of the all-timers. We had a great year again for Magic Round this year. Some great games, some great finishes. Yeah, what a season of rugby league, Brian. Like, if you don't follow this code, honestly, what are you doing with yourself? Genuinely, like, we've had the best year this year on the Sponge, and now we've got the Golden Sponge Awards, Brian. My God, what a season.
And mate, like, it's the Golden Sponge Awards tonight, which is very exciting. But I would argue that the premium award has already been won as of this week, because yours truly, the Magic Sponge podcast, the great on the Instagram, the Rugby League Creators Awards, we were able to pick up the best non-player podcast of the year, if you'll believe that. So we didn't go up against the might of, Den and Camp or, the Levels podcast or anything like that. But Guru, Hello Sport, didn't stand a chance against the mighty Sponge, mate. Here we are. The win. Is there a better award in the year? Like Dally M, Clive, the best non-player podcast, that it just rolls off the tongue, mate. It's all in there.
Yeah, it's all coming up gold, isn't it? Golden Sponge, gold medals for the Sponge here, Brien. How good.
I love it. All right, guys, let's get into it. We are on YouTube everywhere you get your podcast. I think this is probably going to be the last show of the year. We might have another one if there's anything major over the rest of the Pacific and the Ashes, but we'll see how we go. We'll do a quick injury wrap first, which is brought to you by PainPod, drug-free pain relief anyone can use.
I don't know exactly what he's done. I would have thought it was an ankle, but I'm just guessing.
He shouldn't be out for a long period of time. I mean, I'm no doctor. We have to wait for the scans, obviously, but that'd be more positive than negative.
Quick off-season injury wrap-up here, Brien. So I'm just going to list names and list body locations, and I'm just going to rapid-fire them your way, and then you can talk to them in more detail. So first name on the list is Corey Horsburgh with a collarbone injury. Taylan May has been reported as a quad injury, which has got an unusual mechanism of injury. Terrell May has been reported as a hamstring concern, which ruled him out of the game for Samoa today. Xavier Coates has been reported as Achilles injury. Ryan Papenhuyzen shoulder concern or arm something description there in the upper limb. Jahrome Hughes is a shoulder and arm concern. Adam Reynolds is a calf injury that, noticeably sustained in the grand final. 2 ACL injuries here for Billy Walters and Isaiah Tass. And then second lastly on the list is James Tedesco. Looks like he's having repeat knee stem cell procedure there. And then lucky last is it's a really sad one. Is Sam Stephenson, who's coming through the Titan system, was former Queensland under-19s player, has been forced into medical retirement due to a neck concern there, Brien. So really sad one there to sort of round things off. But what have you got for us for those names? There's about, what have we got, about 10 or 11 there, Brien?
Yeah, mate. Well, we'll just start with Sam Stephenson because horrible news this week that he has to medically retire after a neck injury suffered in Cup this year. Everyone kind of asking about the specifics. There hasn't been anything released. I assume it's something like a Keanu Keeney kind of situation where, probably like a disc cord concern, spinal cord injury concerns, those kind of things. If he does any more damage to it, it could affect that side of things, which in a player so young is really rare, as we spoke about with Kenny as well. So just super disappointing and horrible for him to have to go through that at such a young age. Apparently he's an absolute gun. So thoughts go out to him. Hopefully this decision, as we say with any of these medical retirements, can help him outside of footy life, post footy, live as pain free as humanly possible. Because I think that's the other thing. We always talk about injuries and stuff as it pertains to playing NRL football a lot of the time, but they've still got to live a long life, especially from 19 years old. He's still got a very, very long life ahead of him. So, hopefully he can be as pain-free as possible. Let's roll through very quickly. Corey Horsburgh with a collarbone injury in the Prime Minister's 13, not broken. So likely, they said dislocated collarbone. So that can either be like an AC joint sprain at the tip of the shoulder or an SC joint dislocation in at the sternum. SC joint would be more concerning, but it sounds like Ricky Stewart was like, look, he should be able to have some rest and be fine for preseason. Taylan May with a quad injury playing with his kids, apparently. So, put that into the book of weird rugby league injuries. There's many of them. 6 weeks, but he should be fine. Terrell May, hamstring injury, apparently minor. He missed out playing for Samoa today. He is hoping to be back for their next game, so it shouldn't be anything major. Xavier Coates had a partial Achilles tear. I think everyone heard Achilles and freaked out, but there are, partial Achilles injuries as well. Look, probably from a neutral observer, I thought he was pretty quiet in the grand final. And this might explain some of it. I'm not sure exactly when he suffered it, but he definitely wasn't at his barnstorming best in the grand final, particularly in that second half. Paps was photographed in a sling. I put it up in the group, in the broadcast channel on Instagram. It looked like kind of down onto the tip of the shoulder, AC joint type of mechanism. the Storm love me, mate. So they've, some people in and around the Storm have reached out to let me know I'm dead wrong on that AC joint diagnosis. So I'm like, well, why don't you guys clarify it and come out and prove me wrong? Like that's the solution, right? And then I'll get some content and I'll explain whatever they say as well. But apparently not an AC joint issue. So whether it's a scapular fracture or whatever it may be, I don't think there's many concerns for Paps into next year. I think the biggest concern for Paps is R360. Sounds like, Jahrome Hughes, he's obviously got the fractured arm that he played through, but he missed out on the postseason internationals because he's having that shoulder reconstruction. I think that got lost in everything, right? As much as he was a risk of kind of, damaging that forearm again in the grand final, he was playing on with that shoulder that he dislocated earlier in the season that needed reconstruction surgery. So what are we now? Like, he's having surgery mid-October, November, December, January, February, March. Like, by mid-March, like that's 5 months post-Reco. You're usually looking at about 4-month average return to play. So should be right for round one next year. Just come in a bit underdone, but that's not the biggest deal for halfbacks when it comes to shoulders. Adam Reynolds with that calf, mate. I mean, we'll talk about it going into the preseason for next year, and we've talked about it. We talked about it many times over beers later that night. That could have been a good Magic Sponge up late episode in terms of Brien and James's real thoughts when the microphones aren't around. But talk about the implications for Renault going into next year with all these soft tissue injuries just stacking up, and Ben Hunt, go dozer, looking like an absolute legend. So, Billy Walters, the ACL, that was just after our last podcast. So, shout out to Billy. I know we've given him a hard time at points on this podcast, but he really hit his straps this year. And, seems like he's the ultimate Mitch Marsh, I think. Like, the boys just love him, it looks like. Like they got him up there to hold the trophy up and stuff like that. So, really good fella. So, that's his second ACL injury in that leg. He won't be back until mid next season, and probably not back to his best till the season after either. It's a bit of a blow there. Same with Isaiah Tass. He suffered it playing one of the Curry knockouts, I think it was. So he'll be mid next season at best, and then probably not back to his best till 2027. Teddy with the knee stem cells. Look, as his career gets on, you start to have more and more concerns with that OA degeneration. So that's like osteoarthritis, cartilage degeneration, those kind of things. But mate, I keep doubting him, and he just keeps going. So I think I'm just going to park my James Tedesco concern. He's had 12 concussions by now or something like that. He's got a knee that needs stem cells over and over again, and he's just killing it. So if I come in next year for the froths and fades and I somehow am fading James Tedesco again, just slap me, because what's doing. I think that's about it, mate. Have you got anything to add on any of those guys? Anything I missed there?
No, I don't think so, Brian. That's a good summary and a good wrap up. We'll see what happens with the Pac Champs coming up soon. But what we want to launch into next, Brian, is the most prestigious rugby league's award ceremony on the internet. That's the Golden Sponge Awards for 2025. I think everyone's been patiently waiting, eagerly anticipating the end of season awards that we dish out every year. So, Brian, we might as well launch straight into it. We're going to go into, well, it's not my favourite, but it's right up there. It's Toughest Effort or Maniac of the Year award. Who have you got there for the award this year?
Yeah, mate, I've got plenty of honourable mentions, but I'll get to them in a minute. The winner just has to be Jahrome Hughes. Like, it is mental to do what he did. I remember when we were first talking about this on the pod, we were like, oh, look, we could see him returning for a prelim or a GF, but like, he just won't be. Like, my biggest thing is it was always possible for him to return. I think we said this at the time, but it was just like going to be his performance, like a risk of aggravation, the pain he was in. Mate, he just lit it up. Like, he scored a try in the prelim, a try in the GF. He did not look out of place. He was palming guys off with that arm, which is the motion, either that or landing on it, were going to be the most concerning kind of things. He was palming off guys like 3 weeks. And then we get the x-ray, which shows that, he had a fractured forearm. And NRL Roast, I know he's a big listener of this podcast. He and I have a great inside joke where he thinks there is a difference between fractured and broken. So it wasn't just fractured; it was fully broken, James. It was snapped in two. For him to come back 3 weeks after that, just insane. So I'll list a few honorable mentions in a second, but he wins by the length of the straight for me. What about you, mate?
Yeah, it's copy paste for me, Brian. It's Jahrome Hughes by length of street. I think you've said all the key points. The image is the most harrowing thing, though. You see that, and it just is hard to fathom how he's able to play at that level. So I totally agree with you. Who have you got for honourable mentions here, Brian? I'll throw straight to you for them because I think it's a Jahrome Hughes cakewalk for this one.
There
honestly.
is, yeah. But look, like rugby league being rugby league, mate, there's some crazy ones. So Cam McInnes, we spoke about that with the ACL, does his ACL and just like shook it off. And he's like, oh, I thought I did something to my knee. So I thought the next tackle, I'd just go in extra hard and test it out and see how it went. And I'm like, and then the infamous story, which we still haven't had confirmed yet, James, potentially he was out there mowing his yard the next
Yeah, we need that.
If we got that confirmed, I reckon that almost beats Jahrome Hughes for me. Just the mowing the lawn portion for my. But Cam McInnes, that was crazy. Keon and Viliami Kikau playing through those eye socket fractures, insane toughness there. Billy Walters, he finished the game out didn't finish the game out, but played, or did he finish the game out? I can't remember. Played a long time.
Did, mate. He played at least 20 minutes with it.
There you go.
It was about 20 or
Finished the
25
game
minutes.
out with a torn ACL. Partially torn ACL. Then we get the story of Kobe Hetherington post-season. He's been playing with dual meniscus tears, meniscus tear in each knee that need surgery for 10 weeks in the season. I always think, and maybe this is a bit of a homer one for me, but Kurt Donahue with that broken nose that looked caved in. I remember I had a post written up ready to roll, and it takes me a while to record the footage, get it all done up, type the thing up. I was just doing that, and then I just went to post, and I look up and here he is back out on the field. I'm going, mate, his nose was caved in 5 minutes ago. Like, what is happening? Zach Lomax kicked the winning field goal with a broken foot. That was a good one. Also from the Eels, Joash Papali'i played with a broken wrist for the last 6 games. And then one that obviously went unheralded, but Paul Brien from the Newcastle Knights. Like, I remember he debuted, dislocated his shoulder pretty much on his first touch, and like kept playing for another, I think, once again, I'm going to get the details wrong, but he kept playing 10 to 15 minutes, stayed on there. Now he had reconstruction surgery, those kind of things. So, yeah, there's some crazy tough efforts this year. I'm sure we've missed, there's probably half a dozen others that we missed as well. But yeah, unfortunately, unless we get footage of Cam McInnes mowing his lawn, I think Jahrome Hughes gets that one, mate.
Yeah, that's a ripper, Brian, to start off with. Next one's going to be Underperformer of the Year. So the criteria for this one is either injury or SuperCoach related. Brian, who's your nomination for Underperformer of the Year?
Yeah, I think injury-wise, Dave Fafita, his injuries obviously just absolutely killed him. He's an absolute jet for so many reasons. Whatever. And the mystery going on there was crazy. We had, the Titans coming out saying he's been cleared to play, and it was just a bit all over the shop. I think for SuperCoach Dylan Brown, mate, like he, obviously got dropped at times. Even when he was out there, he wasn't doing all that well. So that was a bit all over the shop. And then a combo of both, I just needed to shout out. And this is a guy who we love on the Magic Sponge. But Jaman Hopgood, mate, both from an injury perspective, apparently, I don't know whether he's dealing with a hip or a back. It never really got clarified. But for SuperCoach, he was just absolute dirt all year. And I had such high hopes for him. I think you did as well. I've given 3 there as a bit. I do have some honourable mentions in a second, but I think overall, Dave Fafita did like a real underperforming year for him. What about you?
Yeah, so I went Christian Tuipulotu. I think he just had all the runway to be an elite centre wing scorer for the Dragons there on the wing. And when he played, he was that good. But man, those hamstrings did not do him any favours this year at all. I think he was in like at least 4 or 5, and they were bilateral. It was just something that just absolutely handbraked his season. And I think, there was so much hype there when he got the tries early and he got that left wing spot and he was throwing the $signs around. I was up and about. I bought all the way into him from a SuperCoach point of view. but it did burn me twice this year. I'm sort of a bit ashamed to say that I did trade him in twice throughout the year. So, yeah, he's probably the biggest one for me, Brian. Who have you got as an honourable mention for this category?
Yeah, I think like Kalen Ponga, Latrell, they're two that I had firmly in the first round for draft, and always big fans of those two guys. And they average I was actually surprised. I looked it up. They still averaged early 60s, so they weren't horrific. But still, just I mean, if you had asked me, I was hoping for 90s in the preseason. So I feel like that was for underperforming wise. And Pongers didn't really have much to do with injury. Obviously, like injury ruled him out for a big chunk, but he, it didn't affect his performance when he was out there. There were some weeks, a few leagues where I have Ponga where I was just like, I just can't even captain him because he's scoring 30s. What he's doing. So yeah, really unhappy about him. Any honourable mentions from you, mate?
Yeah, I just also mentioned David Feeder. I guess that goes without saying, but also Angus Crichton I thought was really underwhelming in SuperCoach this year. So I just wonder if we've seen the apex there for Gus Crichton as it goes for SuperCoach into next season. And I would say for, Kalen Ponga as well, Brian, it was interesting that, he played quite well for Queensland, but he's really going to struggle to crack back into that team as it moves forward there as well. So one to definitely keep an eye on for the following year. Next next category we got, Brian, here is comeback player of the year. This is a great scenario where we talk about, people that face season-ending injuries or significant injury disruptions that have come back and absolutely ripped. Who have you got on your list this year? This is a good vibey one, actually.
Yeah, mate, not necessarily NRL, but it's Cody Ramsey for me. Like I just think for him to produce the level that he did in Cup. And for anybody who didn't watch his stuff in Cup, I would advise you to go and watch it. And then also go back and, I don't know when we spoke about it, when he was initially diagnosed with his gut concerns. But like we spoke about it like, oh man, if he's able to, live well, get the weight back, exercise, those kind of things, what a success story. Here he is out there, and now he's got a contract deal at the Roosters, at the Chooks, and they're not signing
Didn't know
anyone
that.
up for. Yeah, apparently I think the Dragons only offered him 1 year. The Chooks offered him 2 or something like that. So yeah, so he's going to the Chooks, which Chooks usually, outside of probably Brandon Smith, pretty good judges of character and footy player. So yeah, I just think what he was able to do off the back of a condition that is lifelong, he's still dealing with that. Cody Ramsey gets it for me. There's another few who were really close, but I just think with what he was facing and my expectations of him, he has absolutely smashed them out of the park. What about you, mate?
Yeah, so I went Sammy Walker off the ACL injury. I just thought his form on return for the Roosters was really, really good. But this wasn't even so injury related. But a guy who seemed to be dead and buried was Adam Dewey. And he just came out. And as soon as he goes to the halves, Brian, all he does is shred. That's all he does. And I know that made him a first round pick a couple of years ago in draft formats, but maybe we're back there again, Brian. Maybe we weren't wrong. We were just too soon. Maybe that's what we take from Adam Dewey. But I thought the back end of his year was really, really, really good. It's hard to see how he fits there in the halves moving forward for the Tigers, but boy, oh boy, there's footy in him. I just think if he can just get an opportunity and some more consistent appearances in the six jumper, especially, he he's got enough footy in there to be someone who's a regular first grader and really doing some good things for a team. So that's why I just threw him in there as well. He wasn't so injury related, but a guy that we were like, well, the best is nearly gone there. But there was some really bright sparks there again for Adam Dewey. So shout out to him. Who have we got there as honourable mentions there, Brian, in terms of good comebacks this year that we saw through the NRL?
Yeah, mate, you don't have to work hard to get me to talk up Adam Dewey. I'll say that for free. I mean, he was my pick to be the CTW flyer in the Froths and Fades earlier this year, and I think I broke even on that one. I probably didn't reach the heights of a Jermaine Asako. But look, I just thought he's really good, and I just think he has to be in the halves somewhere. With expansion happening and stuff like that. I mean, his knees might give out on him at some point, but while he's playing the way he was at the back end of this year, he's got to be there somewhere. Tino, mate, like injury by the year, he was just he was immense for Titans, for Queensland. See some hate for Tino in terms of like, he's so good, but the Titans don't win and all that kind of stuff. And I am firmly in that is a Titans problem, not a Tino problem situation. Like once again, I think the chatter around is that Melbourne really want him back. Like they're going to try and move things around. If they lose their Munsters or their Papenhuysens or whatever, that's who they're going to go after. So yeah, I just think he's an absolute gun. And I think it's really cool for us to kind of see now, after like your likes of Paddy Carrigan. Now we've seen Tino. We've got a really good, I guess, sample size of those throbbers who, especially when they're forwards, don't fret about ACL injuries. Like if we're talking about guys of the echelon of your Paddy Carrigan, of your Tino, like if they've got if they suffer the ACL injury early in the season and then they've got the full off season to kind of get back from it, don't fret. Just dive all in. Go after it, because they're going to come back and they're going to do well. Like, yeah, the odds are going to be in their favor to do well. It's a bit harder for your outside backs where you rely on that really, change of direction, big stepping, tackle busting, that kind of thing. But yeah, I was really, really impressed with him. And the other guy who did a lot better than I thought was Alex Johnston. I kind of thought he would struggle. And I mean, look, the argument is he doesn't have to do a lot on that left wing at times, just has to run the open passage. But I still thought he looked like he had a lot of zip, He didn't lose much. So yeah, I was really, really impressed with him. I think your honourable mention, mate, is a real good shout. Not from necessarily last year to this year, but certainly for this season. Who are you going with?
Yeah, it went Reece Walsh. I guess he's been all the talk of everyone after the season that's been. But, we forget he ruptured his PCL mid-season, and it took him a few weeks to come good. And, the further he got removed from that surgery, or not the surgery, the further he got removed from that injury, the better he got. So I just thought he was worth mentioning here, because I think we also talked about it when Nathan Cleary did the Nathan Cleary thing in 2023. He played the bit of that game with a ruptured PCL. And, it's one of those ones that you do see some superhuman performances with it, but Reece was definitely limited in a couple of games with that. He had the strapping on. He wasn't looking at his free best, but my God, towards the end of the year, he just, he got better and better and better. So that's a credit to him and probably the stuff they were doing behind the scenes there at Broncos, I would say, Brian, in that sort of space there. Next nomination category for the next Sponge Award is the craziest injury story of the year. I like yours here, Brian. I'm just going to let you go straight into it. It's good.
Mate, craziest injury story of the year. And I guess it's probably not an injury story. It's a bunch of injury stories. Anyone in the broadcast channel will know what this answer is going to be. The infections, mate. I still can't get over it. And there's been no one other than me blowing up about it, I don't think. But I'm happy to keep blowing up about it, because what were the boys doing? Like, where's Links Africa, number one? Where's it? Like, Links Africa, I know you're playing hard to get for sponsoring the podcast at the moment, but come on board, because we'll send out the NRL clubs love me. So if I send out some samples to all the boys, just some antibacterial something, we need to get those infections down, because look, infections are part of contact sport, of, training, wrestling, all that kind of stuff. But I think this year it was just the crazy number of boys who missed games, ended up in hospital. Like there are just so many where it's like, it wasn't just that they suffered infections. It was then like how those infections were managed, and how like they just did not, they weren't able to play through them a lot of the time, because they just got so out of hand, out of control. So yeah, there's a few other ones that are pretty good usually, but I just think the sheer number of infections, the NRL infection epidemic or pandemic or whatever the right word is, James, is my clear winner this year. Although I think you've got a couple of good ones as well.
I do. I want to play infections with you there for a bit before I launch into mine, Brian. But the one that really surprised me, and I've never, ever seen this in my life, is the fact that Billy Walters is having an ACL reco, but he's doing 2 weeks of antibiotics before he gets his reco done.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that ever.
Amazing.
What is doing? We need to talk about that in way more depth as it comes around next season. But for someone to be on antibiotics prophylactically pre-surgery because they're worried about infection post-surgery, I am flabbergasted by that. I've never heard that in
Only time
in
I've
any
ever had
setting.
it, I had a patient who had an Achilles rupture. She got a really bad staph infection post Achilles rupture. We dealt with that for like 2 years. It was rank. And then she ruptured. We finally got her back to sport. She ruptured her ACL. So they did the same thing. That's the
Okay,
only
fair enough.
time I've ever
Yeah.
seen it. And it was pretty like, it was relatively close. So I don't know whether Billy has a past history of it, but I reckon I like to lean into your thing of just like it's probably just because there was so much dirt around the clubs this
Yeah,
year that
maybe.
they had to
And it
do
was
it.
also really interesting when he was holding up the trophy that he had the sleeve on one arm, and I would almost bet that he has like a pick line in his arm that he was getting antibiotics through, and he's holding up the shield with his other arm because you can't do much lifting when you've got a
Yeah.
pick line in your arm. So he was getting antibiotics probably intravenously, like in stages there. But that when I think you mentioned that, I was like, what in earth is happening here that you're getting antibiotics pre-op for 2 weeks? That's insane. So anyway, the infections, we'll talk about that more. Hopefully, Links Africa come on board and we can stop talking about it, Brian, because that would save everyone a whole lot of hassle. The ones I mentioned for craziest injury story of the year, I've just lumped them all together. It was the situations with Cam Murray, Keon Kolomatangi, and Keanu Keeney. All those teams were dead and buried, but all those guys were playing at the end of the year. And the Cam Murray one was especially bizarre that he came back for round 27 and Keon came off syndesmosis tightrope surgery for round 27. There was nothing to play for them. Everyone goes, "Oh yeah, but it's the Bunnies and the Roosters. It's a grudge match." Who cares? You're done. Like book your Bali flight and just let the Roosters drop 50 on you, South Sydney. Like there was nothing to gain there at all. Because if either of those boys got injured, like we said, it's curtains for your following season. I just didn't see what on earth the decision making was there for Cam Murray, Keon, but also Keanu Keeney. You know, this is a guy you signed up for 5 years and you're playing him in pretty meaningless footy games at the end of the year. I didn't really see the benefit to that either. So they were my sort of what on earth is happening here sort of moments there with crazy injury stories. What about honourable mentions, Brian, there? I'll get off my soapbox. Who else have you got there as honourable mentions?
Mate, the Bronx halves, 2 hamstrings in one play. That like that'll live in infamy for
Double
me. I
sniper.
mean,
Yeah.
it'll it set the NRL world off because all of a sudden, what are the Broncos doing in training? How can they suffer 2 in the one play? And but I think that's
Oh,
the first.
actually,
Yeah.
that one, when Roger Fabrice chiming in, I'm like, okay, now we're really talking. When Roger's on board, I'm like, okay, we're getting somewhere now.
Now we're
That was I
going.
wanted to talk about that. That was good.
Oh, I love it. So yeah, the Broncos 2 hammies in one play, and then they lost their starting halves in the GF and still won. So I think they're 2 crazy stories there. I think Fletcher Sharp, the severity of his injuries, what was it, a ruptured spleen and
Yeah,
lacerated
kidney
kidney, I think
laceration.
as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
All from like a nothing. Like I maintain that mechanism of injury did not look that bad at all. So to have like injuries, like car crash injuries from a mechanism like that, crazy injury. The 3 Egan brothers doing ACLs in the same year, Dylan and his 2 brothers. I think that's a crazy story in itself. The Rabbits, another season of just like nearly double the injury toll of any other club. That's 2 years in a row now with different medical staffs. I'm sure you might have seen, James. They've just gotten rid of their head of performance, and I think their head rehab physio gotten. I think they're getting new ones in. So obviously they're looking for changes there. So third go through 3 years. So hopefully they don't. It doesn't happen to him again. I think the Jack Howarth story, the tumor they found while getting his appendix out, that's a crazy story. They did well to hang on to that until postseason because that's pretty huge. Thankfully, no cancer or any malignancy there. And then I mentioned it before, but the Cody Ramsey one, I think that's a crazy injury story in itself. No, any for you, mate? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one.
Now we'll move on to the next one, Brian. There's some good injury stories, and we're staying on theme there for the next Golden Sponge Award for the most influential injury. So this is kind of like the injury that derailed a season or derailed a team in terms of their trajectory. Who do you have for this one, Brian?
Yeah, mate, I think if I had to nominate one player to be Luke Metcalf, obviously leading the Dally M, Warriors looking absolutely like humming when he was doing his thing, and then he's gone for the season. But I will say it's a double Luke Metcalf, Mitch Barnett. Losing both of those guys within weeks of each other like nothing against the Wars, but going into the finals, I was like they're 8th for me. Like they're the team least likely to win the comp. They just did not look good at all. And I think in a major part to those 2 injuries. I think those 2 injuries just absolutely gutted them, which like really speaks to how good Lukey Met was going, because I think the Waz had some of the best backup halves options, right? I think Tanner Boyd was looking real good in Cup. I'm a big Tamari Martin fan. I think he could have absolutely stepped in and done a really good job for them. I think he's someone who should be starting in the NRL week in and week out if we're talking expansion and those kind of things. So they had some of the better halves, if the Finns lost their starting halfback, it'd be a massive step down. And it ended up being a massive step down, which is, a massive rap to Lukey Metcalf because, he was just killing it. Mate, I like yours as a Finns homer. What do you got for me?
Yeah, went straight with Herbie Farnworth, Brien. So I just, this is recency bias, but I just remember when he was playing for the Finns, they were just putting up 50 points a week and just being the best team in the comp attacking wise. I think they had the best attack as it was all said and done. But then without him, they were just getting lapped. And I was just like, far out. This guy is worth like 30 points on his own. And every week it was just Herbie Farnworth. Everything came off him. The Cody to Farnworth thing was clicking. The Herbie to Hammer thing was clicking. It was just champagne rugby league in all senses of the word there. So I thought that was a really big miss for the Finns when he went down. That was just dead unlucky when they were really, they were teetering on that sort of edge of the 8th there, but when he was gone, their sort of chances were gone with him. And I could also hear the argument for the similar reasons for Mitch Moses, given that the Eels were going okay and then New South Wales were definitely worse off without him. So I think they were the ones for me. Any other honourable mentions there that you've got here for most influential injury?
Yeah, I agree with Mitchy Moses. The Herbie one, I do agree with. I think it was under 12 stuff from the Finns at times where it was just like throw the ball to Herbie and let him do his thing, and he was doing his thing.
Works
And
pretty well.
yeah, that's exactly right. The other sneaky one, and this might be once again a bit of homerism, but Tom Flegler for the Finns. Like we had so many forward injuries that I think we were pretty cooked anyway. But I just think the Finns are so far off their apex or their potential of what they could be because they just like Tom Flegler was their alpha, right? Like they signed him to be that alpha and they just lack that big time, that starch in the middle and that fire. So yeah, I think that was a big one for them. Cam Murray, Campbell Graham was my injury by the year until Cam Murray went down with Achilles injury. That's how big it was for me. I was just like, no, thank you. Like as soon as South lost Cam Murray, I was like, that's curtains for them. The Kalen Ponga Fletcher Sharp double within a couple of weeks as well was definitely a big one for the Knights. And a sneaky one, mate. This is one that I got a nomination from when I put it up on Instagram. I think it's a great one. Influential injury, as in Adam Reynolds, Ezra Mam going down, influential in a positive way, because as soon as those guys went down, once again, under 12 stuff,
Didn't lose a game.
Hunty
Yeah.
and Billy Walters came into the halves, and it just became Reece Walsh ball. It was just pass the ball to your best player and let him do his thing. And hey, mate, who knows? If Reynolds and Mam didn't get injured, they might not have discovered that Reece Walsh was on the heater of all heaters, and they might not have won the comp. So that could be the nomination for like the actual winner in like reality for the most influential injury of the year. But yeah, I think that's a good one in terms of an injury that influenced the team positively. And as I said, we'll have some takes on that going into 2026, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can't wait for the Broncos old boys to chime in, Brian, because they're obviously the knowers of all. So they'll let us know what the right direction for the team is and the right combination. We always look for the old boys when it's off season. I'm sure Gordy will have a few quotes there for us about how this was actually Kevin Walters' premiership, I think is what Gordon has said about the Bronx. Next one, Brian, is the nomination for biggest lost season of 2025. So this Golden Sponge Award is for the player that just had a season that was a dead set write-off, injury or otherwise. Who have you got on your list tonight?
Yeah, Dave Fafita, who we've mentioned previously, I think that goes without saying. But the other one was Cody Walker, mate. Like he was right up there with Bradman Best from last year. In terms of number of soft tissue strains, that guy could just not stay on the park. And the Rabbits really needed him. With Latrell out, for big portions, Cam Murray out, they really needed Cody Walker, and it just was a massive lost season for him and the Bunny. So I think it's pretty close between Fafita and Cody Walker. And funnily enough, I find it really interesting that Dave Fafita is probably going to be in a Rabbitohs jersey next year, in part because he was massively, obviously, unhappy with how his injury was treated at the Titans. And now he's going to the team that has the worst injury track record of the last 3 seasons. So they're changing staff. Hopefully they're not bringing on the Titan staff for Dave Fafita's sake, so he doesn't, blow up with them again. But yeah, I think Dave Fafita is one of the most interesting players for me heading into 2026 in terms of like how he's going with that injury, because Wayne can sprinkle his magic dust, but it's how his body holds up as well. Yeah, speaking of biggest lost seasons, mate, I'll throw to you because, you're on the same wavelength.
Yep, it's a whole franchise for me. It's the Gold Coast Titans, just that whole thing. So you talk Des Hasler, you talk Kieran Foran, Keanu Keeney, Dave Fafita, Carter Gordon, RCG. There's just nothing good there. Like, it was just a whole lost season. Like, there was nothing really good that came out of this year for the Titans. Where do they go from here, Brian? I don't know. There's just so much wrong there. I think.
Josh Hannay, mate. Josh Hannay. I
Well,
like
yeah,
that.
there's a bit of Queensland spirit in there, which I don't mind. But they've got a roster there that it's kind of what do you do with it here? Like, do you blow some things up? You got a few guys that sort of, I don't know if they click together. It's just a combination thing. It's inexperience as well. It's never been a destination that's been able to attract good talent either. I don't know what you do with the Titans there. It's a funny old place, the Titans. It's kind of where, sporting franchises go to die, isn't it? But, the Gold Coast has a big nursery. It's a big rugby league part of the world. So I just hope for the Gold Coast sake they can get a team they can cheer for that can rip it up every week. But they haven't had that for a while. The one honourable mention I've got here, Brian, was Dom Young. How quick does rugby league move? Here's a guy who was just playing good, playing on the wing for the Roosters, flying, and now he's at the Knights mid-season, and just like he's just gone from the Roosters. And he's, obviously playing for England in the off season, but he was someone who was just box office scoring tries for fun for the Knights and then came to the Roosters, but fell out of favour there really quickly. And now he's on his way back to Newcastle and he finished up there at the end of the year. I was like, man, you quickly forget how quickly things can turn in rugby league. Who have you got as an honourable mention there, Brian?
Yeah, and old Marky Mark, who obviously got Dom Young kicked out of the club, like he's gone at the end of next year. So,
Yeah.
back to rugby. So, yeah, like Dom Young could have been someone he could have been a long-term winger for, like, not that Mark was so good this year that you're not, like you don't regret that decision, but it's just an interesting, the polar opposite of the Bulldogs, right? Like making that short-term decision rather than long-term one. My honourable mention is Jack Howarth, not because he was horrible this year. I actually thought he had a relatively good season, but just that he could have been an Origin hero, mate. Like he was set to be named in that Queensland side, and I'm pretty sure it was his appendix that kept him out, right? His appendix burst, and he missed that first Origin game. Who knows what could have happened? Like Rob Toyer probably doesn't debut. Jack Howarth, the Queensland spirit that he has, he probably absolutely lights it up anyway. So yeah, I just think like for that we've said for years the myth, like how long is Jack Howarth gonna be a thing, and he's finally a thing, and then he just misses out on that Origin debut, like really devastating. I hope he gets to play for Queensland at some point soon because. I like everything about him. I think he's a great player. So hopefully we see it very, very soon.
Yeah, would love to see an edge or centre spot for Jack Howarth in the future as it emerges. I think he's a red hot chance for that. The next Gold Sponge Award, Brian, is for the best NRL social media moment of the year. This is a good one, Brian. This is recent, but it's hard to top what you've got, man. It's funny. It's
Mate,
funny.
I couldn't go past it. I was in absolute raptures
Bits,
with
yeah.
the Gus Gould toilet shot. Like I know it's only been like a week or whatever, but that is some of the best rugby league like entertainment you're ever gonna get. That just 10 out of 10. amazing. Just Gus, just dropping heat. Just just tweeting on the toilet. One of us, James, one of us.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The great man in all his glory.
Yeah.
I just, it was so good. So good. I couldn't. It has to win for me. I think yours is really good too. But yeah, it's amazing. Amazing stuff. Well done, Gus.
Yeah, even Rugby League Immortals send tweets from the toilet, Brian, so it seems. So that was really good to see by Gus Gould. It was very funny. And he laughed about it too, which is even better. I liked, same in the same theme was Reece Walsh drinking the toilet water. That was like, it was pretty lowbrow, but pretty funny. But then the one I really liked the most, and I probably watched again and again and again, it was the clip of the crowd member in Magic Round calling Ricky Stewart a weak gutted dog, and then Ricky turning around and just smiling at him and laughing. That was really funny. It was really good. This kind of had an absolute skinful under his belt. And he's just like, "Oh, Ricky, you weak gutted dog." And Ricky's like pretending not to hear him, and he said it again. He just starts pissing himself. It was
So
good. It
good.
was really, really good. I really enjoyed that, mate. Righto, we'll go to the next nomination award here, Brian. So we've got Buy of the Year. So the Golden Sponge Award for Buy of the Year. Great selection from yourself there. Strong goatee, this one.
Yeah, mate, Gamut Shibasaki. What a pickup from, I think, was it the Townsville Blackhawks? Is that where they got him from? Like somewhere in Cup, I'm not sure. They got him effectively from the back ovals of somewhere, and he's just mate. Like you can't say enough. We've talked about Gammon enough. How much he absolutely destroyed us as footy pundits this year. Luckily, we're only injury guys, James, and we know nothing about footy because Gammett, he was just insane this year. Your one from a heart perspective, this guy is definitely my heart pick. What are you going for?
Yeah, I went Go Dozer. So Benny Hunt was the nomination here. Just the redemption arc, just, what he was able to do for us this year. I thought he was just really, really, really good all round. So shout out to Benny Hunt. He was absolute business this year. I want to shout out here quickly, Brian, as honourable mentions for the Tigers, Jahrome Hughes, Terrell May and Taylan May. I think there's some really astute selections by the Tigers there. So I hope for their long-suffering fans there's a bit more upside there for them on the week in, week out. Who have you got as honourable mentions here, Brian?
Yeah, I thought Aaron Clark was excellent for the Wars. I just thought, he was required with some injuries during the year. Mitchie Barnett, James Fisher-Harris as well.
Yeah.
Like he was required to anchor their middle, and he was just so good. And he always looked good when he played big minutes for the Titans, but he just proved it. Terrell May, I completely agree with, and Isaiah Yongi, mate, for the Eels. I just thought he was, came through that Penrith system, obviously, but for him, as a young fella, he's firmly entrenched himself as, a starting fullback, now in the NRL, in his debut year. So I thought he was a really good buy too.
Yeah, all good noms there, Brian. Rookie of the Year is the next one, Brian. Who have you got here?
Yeah, easy, mate. Rob Toyer, Queensland Spirit, just, really good for the Roosters, don't get me wrong, but being Queenslanders, and I say this as the member of the podcast whose team didn't just win the premiership, but as Queenslanders, we value Origin above all else, and he absolutely killed it in Origin. It's the most important 3 games of the year. So you have to pay me back, James, when the Finns make the grand final. We're all going to go and watch the Finns win the comp. But yes, until that point, it's Queensland. Rob Toyer, amazing. He was so good, and not only that, he suffered 2 ACL injuries in his young career already. So to see him do that off the back of the ACLs as well, insane. Can't applaud him enough.
Can't agree any more with you there, Brian, because I've nominated him as well for Rookie of the Year. I thought all 3 games of Queensland, he did a great job on Latrell. That's as legit as it gets. What else to say about Rob Toyer? I just really enjoyed what he did, what he was about. It was one that we actually spoke up on the Sponges, like, oh, this would be a real vibey selection. And then Billy went and did it. And we were like, oh, wow, that actually happened. And then we were like, oh, this could be good. And it was good. So shout out to Rob Toyer. I think we got off the back of that Dolphins game. He went well. Who else you got there as honourable mentions there, Brian, for that one?
Yeah, Savelio Tamale, he was really good. Leka Halasima and Isaiah Yongi, I think they were all really, really solid. But for me, had to be Rob Toyer. I like your honourable mentions as well, mate.
Yeah, Jackson Purdue and Isaiah Yongi there for me. They were great in struggling teams, Brian, so I thought they were really, really good. The next Golden Sponge Award, Brian, is for the most improved player this year. You've got a guy up in lights who it's very difficult to argue against, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a weird one because people will say, like, what are you talking about? He was already a gun. But Isaiah Katoa, like, as somebody who, like, there were games last year that he didn't even start. Like
True,
he
yeah.
was dropped, right? Like at times. So he's always been very highly touted and, a gun of the future and all those kind of things. But mate, he was for large parts of this year the best halfback in the comp, and people were waxing lyrical about all it. Like he was just elite, um, really, really good. So yeah, like that might be Dolphins glasses on, but I don't think so because I think he was that good this year, and I think that is a significant improvement from where he was last year, where he just had promise. Whereas this year he well and truly delivered in many aspects of the game. Great nomination from you, mate. He was right there with Katoa for me.
Yeah, I went Blake Brayley. So he was one that I just thought, yeah, he's just a really solid first grader. He's going to get in, play 80 minutes, get his tackles. But his end of season, Brian, the more I watched the Sharks, the more I was like, holy hell, this guy absolutely rips. And I just thought he put some really good film on. He had some great games. He was really important to that Sharks attack, and I think he's a big reason why they can push hard next year. I won't push back on you too hard about Isaiah Katoa, though, Brian. God, he was good to watch. He was magical at times, but I think Blake Brayley's a huge improver this year. He's someone that I guess we've always reluctantly taken in Supercoach formats as like, oh yeah, I'll pick him up off waivers as like a hooker if I need to play a draft position. But he's probably the one of one next year. I think you could make a Grant versus him argument really strong. And I think Blake is really entrenched himself in that chat. Who else you've got as honourable mentions here, Brian? There's some really good names that we can go through this year for most improved. There's been some really outstanding performances.
Yeah, I think in a dog shit Rabbits team for a lot of the year, Tass Duncan was amazing. Really, really respected the year that he put together. Another guy who, people are going to say, oh, not, he was already a gun, but Ethan Strange. I just thought like last year he was good and had all the promise in the world, but this year he was elite. He was so good this year. So like on the Isaiah Katoa kind of mold, and then Nafahu White for the Roosters. Like I think he was good last year, but just very under the radar. Whereas this year, like just came out, had to replace JWH and just absolutely brained it. And what about you, mate? Any honourable mentions?
Yeah, I went like a few position groups. I went the Broncos outside backs. What they were able to deliver at the back end this year was just insane. I think, Shibasaki, Dean Mariner was in cup for a lot of the year. Karapani was on the scrape heap at the South Sydney Rabbitohs before he came up, and they were all instrumental in them winning the comp. I just think that needs to be acknowledged, and that's probably a really good reflection of Madge Maguire. We also saw Tony Staggs be pretty consistent, which no one's ever got consistent footy out of Katoni, and he was really good at the back end there for the Bronx. So shout out to them. I also thought the Raiders, what Ricky Stewart was able to do. You look, KO Weeks, Ethan Strange, Big Red, Matt Timoko, Huddy Young, Savilio Tamale, all these guys have had the best years of their career. And I think that's all due to Ricky Stewart. I think that's just something you can't deny there from Ricky. He got a great season out of the Raiders. I think it's sad how it finished, but you can't deny he did a fantastic job down there in the national capital. Next nomination, Brian, this is probably my favourite one, actually. This is coaching bedsheet of the year. This is the Golden Sponge for the worst coaching bedsheet you've ever seen. I felt like we talked about this sort of weekly on the podcast, but we want to put some one specially up in lights this year. Who have you got?
Mate, there's two clear like leaders here. I feel like, and I've gone with one and you've gone with the other. And look, Doggies fans are going to disagree with me. And this is for the 2026 season. So I don't care about 25 season. Like I don't care about 26, 27, whatever. It's the whole Galvin situation with the Dogs. And not only that, like Galvin, but like also Reed Marnie as well. Like I don't understand the Reed Marnie, like the obsession to get rid of him. Like I thought he was everything that was good about the Dogs. Like they were scrappy. They just throw themselves in at 100 miles an hour. They punch above their weight. Like they didn't have the best roster, but they were just a bunch of utilities absolutely killing it. And Reed Marnie was in there starting fights, getting like fantastic. So I think as much as like the whole Galvin thing and destabilizing everyone, all that kind of stuff, I thought the dropping of Reed Marnie was one that like, I just didn't understand. The proof was in the pudding. They were absolutely flying, and then just faded away towards the end of the year. So, I know there's going to be heaps of people who say, no, it's, the right decision in the long run. And look, the Dogs might win the comp next year. Great, fantastic. But I had them at a point in this season as a great chance to win the comp this year. Like that's, and I think a lot of people did too. So I just think that, that whole situation was not good. But yours, it's neck and neck with these two, mate. What do you got for me?
Yeah, it's length of the street for me, but Todd Payton, God, how many do we list here, Brian? Like, I could go on about this for hours, honestly, but like he's a coach who played Chad Townsend for like 3 years straight before he realized actually Jake Clifford has got a fair bit of foot in him. And then to start the season, he started all these Origin players in Queensland Cup for some reason. And then he started a rookie halfback who was, by the way, Queensland Cup Player of the Year last year in Tom Duffy, and then moved him after 3 games. Then he moved Clifford after Clifford won a few games for Jackson Purdue at 6 when there was no reason for Purdue to go to 6. He was ripping at centre. He played Nano on the left edge. He had some bizarre outside back selections. Like, the whole thing up in North Queensland was just a dead set clown show. And the Cowboys were just unders all year. They were mostly dreadful, Brian, I think it's fair to say. I think there's enough talent up there. They shouldn't have been getting done as bad as they were. I just thought there was just so many things that could have got better. I was shocked that Todd Payton kept his job. And I think it's cost them also. Tom Duffy's moved on to the Broncos. I don't know what's happening with Jake Clifford, whether he's there for another year, if he's gone to greener pastures. But it might well unravel this whole roster. I don't know what's going to happen up there in North Queensland, but it doesn't look good, in my opinion. What about honourable mentions here for coaching bedsheet of the year, Brian? You got any other situations you want to put up in lights?
Yeah, mate. I think I can't agree more with Todd Payton call, especially around Clifford. I really don't understand it. Like, I would take Clifford in a heartbeat at the Finns. Like he is just. I think he's so good. I really, really rate him as a footballer, especially. And I know for footy this shouldn't matter, but as a North Queensland junior, mate, like that, I feel like
this
that.
is the one.
Yeah,
Oh.
I feel like that matters. I do. I really feel like that matters as being a junior. He loves the Cowboys. Oh man, like I would just be doing everything to work around him. Him and Dearden halves combo for the next 5 or 6 years. Beautiful. Sign me up. So, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen because they nearly got rid of him. So, my other one, and I don't know whether this is a Wayne. Like, I thought the way that Wayne dealt with the whole Lewis Dodd situation was quite strange, like publicly insulting him. Like, I read an interview with Lewis Dodd where Lewis Dodd was actually quite nice in kind of addressing all the, but I just found it really weird. Like, Wayne would slag him off in the media almost and those kind of things. I just found that really weird. But yeah, the whole signing of Lewis Dodd, obviously on overs. I remember one of the great Pommies, Mick. He sends me emails from time to time. Big footy fan over there. I remember when the Bunny signed Lewis Dodd, he was like, that is the worst signing. He's like, he is not even up to scratch over here. He's not going to be good over there. And I didn't think much of it at the time. Well, it turns out Mick absolutely nailed it because, obviously they overpaid for him. And so that whole situation is just a massive coaching bed shit for me. Hit me with your honourable mention, mate. It's a pretty good one.
In Origin stuff, well, Brian, so Laurie Daly, he was 1-0 up. He had all the cattle available, and he just somehow doesn't get it, Brian. I don't know why. I don't know how. We famously never doubted Billy Slater for a second on the Magic Sponge here. We were always in Billy's corner. Never for a second we doubted the Royal Prince of Queensland and B. Slater from Innisfail. But that was one that just New South Wales have just got to look at and go, like, how the hell are we still losing these series to these guys that we are on paper a million times better than? And I know games don't want to play blah, 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 but seriously, Brian, like with the talent available, there's just no way they should have got done like that. I know you want to mention the coach whisperer here for Laurie Daly because there's some good
mate,
yarn around Laurie Daly.
You're asking like how did he lose it? Like, for anybody out there who doesn't follow the coach whisperer, Bradley Charles Stubbs on Twitter, absolutely go over there right now and follow him because I don't know what Laurie Daly has done to Bradley Stubbs, but he's done something because that man, I've never seen him go after anyone, and he goes after Laurie so hard because he says he's got, I'm going to get the phrasing wrong, but like a losing frequency. He just attacks him left, right, and center. He's like, his energy, his frequency, he's a loser. Oh man, it's so entertaining. That's almost the social media moment of 2025 for me. Just Bradley Charles absolutely hating on Laurie Daly. But yeah, that's why he lost, mate. You asked how did he lose it? It's the bad. He had the bad juju, the bad frequency from the coach whisperer himself.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, maybe he didn't buy a book from Bradley Stubbs. I don't know, but he's got someone offside there. Next one, Brien, almost in the total opposite of the coaching bedsheet award. We're going to coaching masterstroke golden sponge here. Pretty straightforward one here for both of us, I think, from a Queensland point of view, isn't it?
Yeah, mate. Look, I'm happy for the 20th time to lay down on, lay down on my sword or whatever the saying is and say that we absolutely fucked up in all of our analysis of Billy's coaching because he just absolutely nailed it this year again. Like he had a bad year last year, but just absolutely killed it this year. But I think the biggest one, and you'll speak about a big call that he made that was really, really good. But I thought from an origin perspective, and we make the joke about whether you get it or not and all that kind of stuff. Billy gets it, and the thing that makes me think he gets it is bringing Josh Papali'i in for game 3. Like I didn't even, when he did that, I didn't realize how much they would play on it, how much they would it's just that juice, right? Like it's not about how good you are or talent or something like that. It's giving the boys, and they had a lot to play for with the Cam Munster situation, all that kind of stuff. But those boys, it was like drummed into them. We've got to win this for Big Papa. Like we got to send him out. I'm like, genius, absolute genius. Give him a guy, bring in a guy who was there for the 8 in a row. I'm pretty sure he played, during those years. You bring in a legend like that, and you say to all the younger boys, this is Big Papa. We've got to win it for him. Amazing, amazing stuff. Well done, Billy. I think yours is the same in terms of the person you're nominating, but the decision, I think, also right up there too.
Yeah, Billy with the Dearden
Yep.
decision, because at the time, I don't think there was too many people that were really behind that, but man, Tom Dearden had a game for the ages in game 3, and game 2, he was really good as well. I think Michael Maguire is in here as well, what he was able to conjure out of the Broncos this year as a masterstroke. But I think you need to give some flowers to Ricky Stewart as well. Like I mentioned the boys he brought along this year. No one had the Raiders being as good as they were this year, and they were probably just really unlucky they ran into the Broncos in week 1, and then Reece Walsh just caught fire like we've never seen once he got sin binned, and really, they were probably unlucky to see Huddy Young in the sin bin and lose that game in the end. Well, they actually won the game twice before they got it taken off them. So, as we said a few weeks ago, sucked into the Raiders, but they were really unlucky this year. They really, really were. So I thought, Ricky Stewart sort of had some really good sort of things that he brought along this year, which was great as well. The biggest brain explosion of the year, Brien. I like your nomination here for this one for the Golden Sponge Award for the biggest brain explosion. Who have you got?
Yeah, I hate going with a like a ref decision, right? Because it's it's cheap, but I think for the vibes, less than the the technicalities of the rule. But you can't send someone to the bin for throw and chirp. You just can't do it. And I'm sorry, but the Hudson Young going to the bin for throw and chirp at Reece Walsh is the worst. There's been some howlers. The whole what was it? Was it Justin Hodges or Matt Gillett who got sent to the bin when I think it was
the
someone
20
took
tap
a
when
tap?
it was like a 40-meter run.
He
Yeah,
ran at 40
that
meters
was
down
Collins,
and got sent to the bin. That's an all-time ref howler. There's the one where the guy was standing 3 meters out and bat the ball back in, and the ref touchy standing there. It's been some howlers, but for vibes alone, to send off a guy who the chirp did its job, James. He chirped him, and by all accounts, he didn't, insult his kids or his wife, or didn't get personal. He just chirped him, he did it, and he nailed it. And Reece Walsh headbutted him, and that's all it should have been. If anything, you send off the third man in, fair enough. But Hudson Young getting sent off, I'm still filthy about it. As someone who had lackluster talent in some sporting senses and relied on chirp a lot when I crossed that white line, James. I felt for a fellow niggler to see Hudson Young go to the bin there. Massive brain explosion for me. What do you got for me?
Yeah, I went the Bulldogs. You mentioned it earlier, but they were really on target to contend this year. And I think a lot of people say, well, it's a good long-term decision and that's the right call. But, premiership chances don't come around all the time. You need heaps to fall your way. You need to be healthy. You need to make sure other teams aren't catching fire. Like, I think to go, oh, we'll put our eggs into next year and the year after and we'll keep building and building. Like, it's good in theory, but I think they were such a good chance to really give it a shake this year. And they really imploded the whole thing, and I couldn't really follow as to why, and they did implode it. Like, everyone will say, "No, no, it wasn't, it wasn't this, wasn't that," but they did. They weren't the same team. There wasn't the same vibe there. There wasn't the same camaraderie for sure. There was definitely a split there. So, they need to get it together. I think, obviously they're managed well, they're coached well, they've got a good team on paper. Hopefully they put it all together next year, because otherwise Terrell seat gets hot really, really, really quickly if they don't. Any honourable mentions here, Brian, for big brain explosions?
Yeah, I think the Trent Loiero game. I'm not sure if you all remember the game against the Raiders, where he gave away that Paps kicked effectively a winning field goal, and then it came back. Trent Loiero elbowed someone in the head, so penalty, field goal wiped off the thing. And then he gave away a penalty in front, down the other end, in Golden Point, for them to lose the game as well. So that was an epic one. And then I just think disruptor penalties, mate. Like, disruptor penalties were just the biggest waste of space ever this season. I just did not like them. Whoever came up with them, just put them in the bin. Have you got any honourable mentions?
Yeah, I just said DCE when he did his media session saying he's going to leave Manly. No need, didn't need to do that. And then the whole season just imploded. Like, I think Manly were going to implode anyway, but that wasn't a great look by DCE. Next one, Brian's a bit more vibey from a Supercoach point of view. Who's your Golden Sponge nomination here for best Supercoach calls of the season 2025?
Yeah, mate, so many to choose from this year just because we're so good at Supercoach,
What you've done,
obviously.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Tino by the year. I haven't had the privilege of, who was my one last year? Was it Kiraz? I can't remember.
I think it was Kiraz or Max Kent.
Yeah.
One of
So
the
I
two.
think, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So Kiraz wasn't too bad last year, but Tino was absolutely amazing this year. And, thank God I flipped from Campbell Graham over to Tino once all the injuries at the Bunnies happened. But yeah, that's my best call. You had to start with Tino on a bye, so that was a big call to do that. But he was just someone who you parked in your team, and he just killed it. For such a long period. He had that. What was that niggling injury?
Had a sternum injury. And it sort of
Sternum.
cost him a bit to the end of the year.
Yeah. So until he suffered that sternum injury, he was just a absolute worldie for a very reduced price. People were avoiding him because of the ACL, coming off the ACL concerns and those kind of things. So I was just really happy to make that call. That was my favorite call. What about you, mate?
Yeah, I think we talked it up on the Frost and Fades. I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, what about Drinky at 3 overall?" I was really for it, and I think a lot of people were like, "What about Ponga? What about KP? I'm sorry, KP or even Latrell or Tom Trbojevic, I think was mentioned." But I just thought Drinky with the goal kicking was just so much upside there. He delivered everything there in spades. 3rd overall, most points in Supercoach this year. We also talked a lot about Nicho Hynes at 2. Everyone was like, "You can't take Nicho at 2." Well, he just delivered the 4th most Supercoach points and played every game. So, he was high scorer at the position there. I think they were pretty good takes at the start of the year when we were discussing the draft order. But I also reckon in terms of Supercoach more generally, the call to decrease your loop threshold was a really good one. I think early doors, I think you sort of clued on to, actually, you could probably cop 90 to 95 and still be pretty satisfied with that. And I think that was a pretty good one to do from that point of view. Going the other way though, Brian, what was your golden sponge for the worst Supercoach calls this year? You sort of mentioned him just before.
Oh, you didn't even let me do the honourable mentions, mate.
Oh, my bad.
list
Sorry.
off.
Honourable
I've got
mentions.
so many other good calls.
Oh, yeah. You
the
nailed
list.
everything this year. Yeah. Sorry. My bad. Go
But
honourable mentions.
the throbber, I couldn't go away without Tamale when I did the comparison to Tommy Talau. He's a throbber. He's dating an NRLW throbber as well. And he just came out and he was a throbber, and I was so happy. Damn rugby league guru for like pumping his tires up, like literally the day after I did all my research to come up with Tamale as my guy. But what can you do? I also was pretty high on Hosking going into the season. I think that worked out well. I was high on Aaron Clark going into the season. And then I was really happy with Paps. I thought he was a really good pick, and that worked out really, really well. And I'm not usually hesitant on too many guys, but I was hesitant on Dave Fafita heading into the season. He was someone who was avoiding in pretty much all formats. And yeah, that worked out well for me. So yeah, after gassing myself up there, I'll just go straight into the worst ones, mate, because Campbell Graham. I'll say that we did like go off him a little bit when the Cam Murray and Latrell injuries happened. I remember we did like the buy of the year kind of frost and fades, I think it was. And I kind of said Campbell Graham. And then it was like 2 days later, Cam Murray did his Achilles. Because I think even in frost and fades, when I went back and had a look, I had Cam Murray as one of my like froths for second row. So he obviously hadn't done the Achilles at that point. But even outside of us going off him a little bit, I was still high on Campbell as like returning, to looking like the player he used to be. And look, he didn't have the cattle around him, but he just didn't even have like the base stats to, like they weren't huge. He wasn't tackle busting, those kind of things. So I think that in a very small field, James, of only 1 to 2 bad calls for the entire year, I think that was probably my worst one. What about you?
Well, I had a few that I'm going to throw myself under the bus for. So I never got Herbie Farnworth in standard. People like just immediately tell me to delete the app, but yeah, I never got Herbie all year in standard, and he had an awesome season, as we all know. I traded Tom Trbojevic in 3 times in total because we went by the motto of if Turbo's healthy, he's in your team. I tried that 3 times. It didn't work, Brian. So I'm probably off that sort of motto next year. I don't think that one's set in stone anymore.
Mate, I finally brought him in at the end of the year and he was good for me. So I'm on the Tommy Turbo train.
It's no good for me, mate. I'm probably off it now. I've been in the quarter. I've been a supporter for many years, but now I've probably been roasted hard this year, so I probably can't go back there. I've sort of been burnt a bit too much. The worst other option as well, I had KO Weeks in my 6th position for a while, and I just traded him in week 7 when he was averaging 33, and I think he started going Troppo after that, so that was really disappointing. And then the other one was trading in Penrith outside back, which was your kryptonite, Brian, but I'd trade in Brian Toto instead of Dylan Edwards late in the year, which was just an absolute bed shit of a SuperCoach call. That was just a stinker. The other one that I think is really worth an honourable mention is I didn't use the baller projections for captain options. That's my worst call of the year by a mile. Like just not getting them in was really bad. What about yourself from an honourable mentions perspective, mate? Any other calls that have aged poorly?
Yeah, and the frosts and fades, mate. I said I was fading all front rowers. I even said it was yuck to go high on front rowers, and it ended up being one of the best positions in SuperCoach. I think a lot of people made that mistake this year, but I'm happy to throw myself under the bus there. I was very hesitant on Jaden Campbell, very hesitant on James Tedesco, as we spoke about earlier in the show, and Val Holmes as well, and all those guys were really, really good. Chasing Ponga and Latrell in draft so high, and then Paul, mate, like in terms of worst SuperCoach calls, what was that Magic Round I brought him in?
It was Magic Round,
yeah, and he just sucked, and then he got dropped. And James, it just absolutely kills me when he comes out late in the year, SuperCoach finals, puts up like 140s, 150s,
170,
and I can't. The Penrith outside back rule just keeps like for you, the Tom Trbojevic thing. For me, it's Penrith outside backs. I just cannot get it right. I brought Brian Toto in late in the year and he sucked. Like he was no good for me either. So I just think I just can't. I don't know if I can do it. I'll get sucked into like Isaac Tungo or something next year you watch, but it's just not for me. The Penrith outside back's just not for me.
No, that's such a good shout, isn't it? I'll remind you of that when you're doing your potential trade options next year, Brian, just to keep that front of mind. What we're going to do is Golden Sponge for your favourite player in 2025, Brian. Who was your favourite this year to watch?
Yeah, Herbie. Herbie, it's close between him and my Golden Sponge player of the year, who I'll name in a second. But I loved the give the ball to Herbie and see what he can do. And he just was absolutely insane. I think the Finns as a whole, when they were putting up those points time and time again, just like scoring tries from anywhere, like, because we didn't have the forwards to put us in good field position all the time. So we're scoring tries from over halfway, and Herbie was a massive, massive part of that. I just couldn't believe how good he was going from real life and from a super coach perspective. Yeah, amazing. So, so good. So yeah, Herbie. And he's only signed a 1-year extension, which I'm a little bit nervous about, but yeah, hopefully we can tie him up for a little bit longer. And once Carla Luapu gets into the halves, mate, we'll be right.
You'll be firing then upper thins.
Yep.
Well,
What do
mate,
you got?
mine's pretty vibey. I went KO weeks. I just
Nice.
thought if you clip up all KO's plays this year, it's in its own tier. I think the Miracle Emoji, the Magic Round Chip and Chase, yeah, the full field try in that first finals game. K Weeks is dead set, lightning in a bottle. I'm happy to see Canberra re-sign him for longer term. He was just sensational for them this year. I love watching him play. He's really, really one of those guys I love to see on the TV screen. I also mentioned here quickly, Brien, Payne Haas. Like, I always liked watching Payne Haas as a mega Broncos homer. But now he's got the offload license. Like, stuff happens around him now. He doesn't just truck nut and play the ball and get through his work. He's now a guy that a fair bit of stuff happens around. People push up and support. He sort of gets late footwork going. He pops things up. He sets up tries. Like, there's just been so much to like about Payne Haas this year, and what a great season he's had. Any other honourable mentions there, Brian? We talked about my two there. Who else you got there that you want to put up in lights for your favourite
Yeah,
player this year, or other guys that you're frothing?
I think Benny Hunt, just that Queensland, go Dozer. Like, it was always hard to see how, how much the grand final in 2015 affected him. To have him kind of go full circle, amazing, love it. Paps was a big one to see him come back from his injuries. I think he is the poster boy for people who I'm like, he should absolutely sign a massive money deal with R360 and just ride off into the sunset. Because for him to do what he's done with the injuries he's been through, he should just take that guaranteed. Well, hopefully it's guaranteed money. If like the money they're talking about, just take that money, and just in case his knee starts to break down or whatever it may be, like, yeah, just take that money and go, mate. Because he was so good this year, so hopefully he's played well enough to get himself a big payday, and he can go over and light it up over there for 12, 14 games a year or whatever they're talking about. And then my homeboys from the Finns, Cody Nikorima and Trey Fuller, mate, they were just box office. I love Cody. That's my heart pick from a long time ago. And then Trey Fuller, mate, coming back from the ACL, he did take a little bit to warm into it, but not too long. By the end of the year, he was absolutely humming too. So yeah, really, really good.
I really like your call, Brian. You mentioned in the grand final about how Trey becomes a matchup fullback for you guys at the Finns there. Do you want to detail people on this theory? It's a bit tinfoily, but I really like where your brain goes with this one. I think it's worth putting on record here for ideas for Christian Wolf to implement next year, Brian.
Of course, yeah, Christian. Good to know you're listening, and you're also listening an hour and 20 minutes into our absolute dribble. So yeah, very, very good. My theory is that Trey Fuller is the best fullback against bottom 8 teams in the comp. I just think when he plays a team that the Finns should beat or are on top of and don't have as much pressure on, he is just absolutely immense. And he takes what could be a close game, and he just puts 10, 20 points on his own and absolutely kills it. But I have major concerns when he plays the better teams. In terms of defensively, in terms of under the high ball, he was a bit better this year. But yeah, I just think the difference between Trey Fuller against those top teams versus the bottom teams, he is an absolute elite worldie against the teams with maybe not the best kicking game, those kind of things. That's my theory with him. So I would still personally still have Hammer as my fullback going into next year. But I wouldn't be against Trey at the back, but I just can see a situation where they go with Trey at the back. It gets 6 weeks in, and they come up against Matt Burton Bulldogs or the Panthers or something, and Trey just gets absolutely embarrassed on a Sunday afternoon. They're kicking into the sun, and he's just all over the shop with the high ball. That's a real possibility, I think.
I like that. That's a good rugby league theory there, Brian, that you've been working on and cooking up. The very last award of the night goes. Well, this is the Golden Sponge, Brian. This is the one that people have all been waiting for. This is the Player of the Year for 2025, as nominated by yourself and myself on the Magic Sponge this year. Who's yours, Brian? Who have you got?
Mate, I want to say to the listeners first that if you go back and listen to past Magic Sponges, we don't just nominate our favourite players from our teams or the best players from our teams, because that's what we've done this year. But it's Isaiah Katoa for me. Yeah, he was. I was a bit devastated for him that he didn't win, because the Dally M's is such a prestigious award, steeped in great legitimacy. But yeah, to see he didn't get the halfback of the year. But yeah, he was just insane. Some of the stuff he could do. And I just think that the Finns were not that good in a lot of different aspects. Like, our forward pack was so dog, and he just kept getting the job done. And some of the passes he was throwing, I think, for a young fella, yeah, amazing. So yeah, for me, it's Isaiah Katoa. Yeah, hit me with the best player from the Broncos from you, mate.
Yeah, so it's cliche, but it's Reece Walsh for me, because last year I gave it to Tom Dearden. I think I said last year Tom Dearden didn't win the Wally Lewis, but he was so good in Origin without Munster. He was great for the Cowboys, great for the Kangaroos at the back end of the year. And lo and behold, 2025, Tom Dearden does it again. The deep North Queensland spirit that he has. He's put on the game 3 that we haven't seen since Joey 05. Generally, it's Dearden 2025 and Joey 05, and they're in the same breath. And he was just immense for the Cowboys again. He was great for the Maroons. He was a Wally Lewis medal. Like, he had an outstanding season. But, if there was ever a season you'd sum it up as like young, dumb, and full of cum, it was Reece Walsh. It was just a hot boy being as hot as it could ever possibly be. It was the run into the finals. It was getting into the top 4. It was knocking off the sort of the number 1 team on the road in week 1, and then they got it done against Penrith at Suncorp in an absolute barnstormer, and then they went down to Sydney and did it against the most consistent franchise in NRL in the Melbourne Storm. The grand final performance there is god tier. There's just no two ways around that. Everyone will say, oh, it's recency bias. There's been some other good performances, but you look at some of the Clive Churchills you've seen over the years, he's just in a tier on its own. Like, there's just no denying that, I don't think. So, if ever there's been that rugby league season, like we said, that's young and dumb, and he personifies that to a T, and it's rugby league come. It's unbelievable from East Roll. So he's the one that's golden sponge for me, mate. I think it's one I'd thought, oh man, if Reece didn't light it up, it's Tom Dearden again off the back of last year and this year. I think Tom Dearden is just so underrated. But Reece, what else can you say? It's just everyone's talked about it. Everyone's slurped him. Everyone's going to keep slurping him. If he does more stuff for the Kangaroos, my God, the offseason is going to be the best from a Broncos fan perspective, and almost insufferable if you're not a Broncos fan, because I would say this. A lot of people say, oh, Penrith fans are the worst. They're entitled to this and that. You haven't seen Broncos fans when we've won a premiership. We are, by far, the most obnoxious, unbearable supporter base in the comp. So people are going to get a really good taste of that. And I'm going to be front and center leading the charge on that, Brian. So I wouldn't say get around me. I'd say you probably don't want to be around me for the rest of this 12 months, because, man, oh man, the Broncos fans, we do live and die, and they're a big base, but they're obnoxious to a point where, like, we all think we in our heart of hearts, we always think we're better than you, and now it's proven we are better than you. So you're gonna have to just deal with that for a long period of time for everyone listening. So yeah, up the Broncos for this year, Brian, and fair play to Reece Walsh. What a man to man, hot as can be. It's an all timer. It just is. Like, there's no other way to. I don't know what else comes close in sport. I can't think of, like, oh, sure, there's other things and like across codes and stuff like that, but from a rugby league point of view, I guess we've seen the fullback years and things like that, but I think this is on its own, because you win the thing at the end of the year and you hold the ring on your finger. That's the be all and end all, isn't it?
100%, mate. I think it's lucky we won the non-player podcast of the year this year, because we're not going to win it next year once people try and sit through your, like, Broncos just arrogance all year.
Just dripping out of me. Like, it's just, I'm soaked in arrogance, mate. You wouldn't believe it.
Oh, I love it. All right, guys, that is the Golden Sponge Awards wrapped up for the year. Probably the Magic Sponge podcast wrapped up for the year. We might do another little off-season special in, like, I don't know, November sometime, if there are any big injuries out of the internationals. But otherwise, we'll see you next year. We have loved doing the Sponge again this year. If there's any sponsors who want to come on board, we love our sponsors here at the Sponge, but always helps keep the lights on and get us able to knock off 2 hours on a Sunday night from our duties with our families. But yeah, James, thanks for coming along again, mate. It's been a great one. We were able to get down to the grand final, which is always a good win for the boys at the Sponge. And hopefully we're sitting here this time next year having gone and seen maybe a Bronx Finns grand final. And yeah, the Finns are going to fucking win that, mate. So just, yeah, what can you do? But yeah, mate, thanks to all the listeners. Thank you for listening week in and week out. It's fantastic. And as always, up the mighty, mighty Redcliffe Dolphins.
Suspected